What's up, everybody? It's Outside the Ropes here. I'm going to do my last video of the year. I want to give out my awards for Fighter of the Year, Knockout of the Year, things of that nature. You've already seen some other channels put up some great videos on this topic. I just want to go ahead and do mine for the end of the year. There was a lot of fights that I didn't really get to talk about this year. I haven't made a hell of a lot of videos this year like I wanted to, but I'm going to go ahead and give these awards out. I'm not going to go through nominees or anything like that. I'm just going to tell you who I think the award goes to. However, if there's a toss-up, I want to tell you what the toss-up was. And you guys make sure you leave me your comments. Let me know what you think these awards should go to. And leave me your feedback and whatnot. So we're going to start off with Robbery of the Year. Now, this was a toss-up for me. This was a toss-up between Hopkins and Pascal and Devin Alexander versus Kotelnik. Now, these were both terrible robberies in my opinion for different reasons. Now, for the Bernard Hopkins versus Pascal fight, what made that robbery suck for me was that we all wanted to see Bernard Hopkins win that fight, especially us in America. We wanted to see him win that fight because the history, the storyline behind it. You know, we all wanted to be able to say, you know, when we're talking with our kids, you know, I was there when Bernard Hopkins became the oldest champion in history. I was there. I was watching that fight with my popcorn, and I was there. I got to witness it, but it didn't turn out that way. It ended up a draw, which sucked. I thought Bernard Hopkins won the fight. It was a close fight, but I think that he ran with the whole second half of that fight clearly. And the Kotelnik fight, that's where I gave the award to. I think the Kotelnik versus Alexander fight was definitely the worst robbery that I have ever seen in recent years. This was worse than Berto versus Collazo, because at least that Collazo-Berto fight was close. But this fight, in my eyes, wasn't even close. I had Kotelnik clearly winning the fight, and they gave Devin Alexander a beautiful rap, gifted, unanimous fucking decision, okay? Unanimous, okay? Not split, not majority, unanimous decision. All three of these idiot judges said that Kotelnik lost that fight clearly, and that was just a terrible robbery. And I think that HBO did that shit because Kotelnik versus Bradley wasn't the fight that they wanted. They wanted to set up Bradley and Alexander because I feel that maybe they thought that fight would be a little bit more marketable. So I think that's why they gifted Alexander that decision. That was definitely the robbery of the year in my opinion. So moving on to Knockout of the Year. Okay, I'm not doing this in any particular order, but Knockout of the Year, I definitely gave it to Sergio Martinez. That knockout over Williams was devastating and disturbing. He caught him with a shot, put him flat on his face, and Williams was asleep with his eyes open. I mean, I was worried for Williams, and I think he even died for a couple of seconds, man. That was a disturbing knockout that nobody expected. I jumped off of the couch when that knockout happened because nobody expected Sergio Martinez, of all people, to knock out Williams. So that's where my Knockout of the Year went. I'm going to talk about, let's talk about boring fight of the year. Now, this was a toss-up. This was a toss-up for me. Shane Mosley versus Sergio Mora and Harrison versus Hay. These were two boring ass fights that were letdowns, and they were both boring for their own reasons. But I'm gonna give the award. I'm gonna give it to Hay versus Harrison because Harrison, I don't even think he landed one solid punch in that fight, and it looked fake and fixed. It was just a terrible fight, and that was a fight that I would have mind not even seeing ever. So that's where my award went to. But the Sergio Mora and Mosley fight was right up there with that because that was a painful fight to watch. And I watched it one time. I didn't even want to see the replay of it. I mean, it was a terrible, terrible fight. And it was just boring, man. It put me to sleep. So the award goes to Hay and Harrison. That's my boring fight of the year. As far as best fight of the year, I gave it to Marquez versus Caceres. And the reason why, when I pick fight of the year, I think about good back and forth action. There are some good fights that are one-sided, and majority of the fight won by one guy. But I look for good back and forth action, and I think that Marquez and Caceres provided that for me. Caceres dropped Marquez in the, believe it was the fourth round, and Marquez does what he does, which we've seen him do before. He got up, he sucked it up, and he got back in the fight. He ended up stopping Caceres, so I gave that fight of the year, in my opinion. You guys make sure to let me know what you guys think about these choices. Let me know what you think, who your awards go to. But that was my fight of the year. There was a lot of great fights, but that was my fight of the year. Good back and forth action. So that's why I chose that. Now, fighter of the year. Okay, fighter of the year goes to none other than Sergio Martinez. He beat Kelly Pavlik and Paul Williams this year. Paul Williams in the rematch. And I believe that he was the underdog going into both of those fights, and he won both of those fights decisively. Nobody expected Sergio Martinez to beat Kelly Pavlik the way he did. My prediction video is still up, and I picked Sergio Martinez to easily beat Kelly Pavlik, but a lot of people didn't agree with me. Some people told me I was crazy, but I saw it, and I really didn't expect him to beat him up that bad. I mean, not only did he beat him decisively, but he beat him up, had him bleeding all over his face. And yes, B-Hop beat him before, but that was at a different weight class. This was the first loss that Kelly Pavlik had at middleweight, which is his home where he fits in the best. So Sergio Martinez definitely is the fighter of the year. He knocked out Paul Williams, and nobody expected that knockout. Like I said before, I jumped out of my seat when that knockout happened, and people probably expected that fight to be a little bit closer than it was. They expected pretty much the same type of close fight that the first matchup between these two guys had, but it was a great knockout. So, fighter of the year, Sergio Martinez. That's my thoughts on it, guys. I'm a little bit sick, so I'm going to get out. But I'm going to talk about disappointment of the year, disappointing fighter of the year before I leave. And that would definitely have to be a toss-up, okay, between David Haye and Floyd Mayweather. Both of these guys disappointed me this year. Mayweather for obvious reasons. We all wanted to see Mayweather versus Pacquiao this year, and I thought that this year for sure the fight would get done because there was negotiations and all that stuff, and I thought at least by November we would have a fight between Mayweather and Pacquiao, but it never happened. Once again, Floyd Mayweather was a big disappointment. Yes, he did have a good fight with Shane Mosley, and I give him his props for taking that fight this year, but for some reason he thinks that he's so good that he only has to fight once a year because he's on this whole I'm the Super Bowl of boxing type shit that he's got going in his head. So he was a disappointment this year, but David Haye was also a disappointment because he bitched out of 2 fights with the Klitschko brothers this year. After talking so much shit and getting everybody all hyped up about him in the heavyweight division, he was a big letdown this year. The Harrison fight, like I said, was one of the worst fights of the year. And David Haye, I don't know what's up with that, man, but I hear he's going to fight Klitschko maybe next year, hopefully, if he doesn't bitch out of it again or find an excuse. But he was a disappointment this year, but there was a lot of other disappointments. I just give the award, I give it to Floyd Mayweather because not only did he let down hardcore boxing fans, but he let down casual fans, and that hurts the sport. When you let down casual fans, that hurts the sport. See, when you're a hardcore boxing fan, you know that there's other fights that can be made. So you don't really bitch about it too much and you just kind of move on. But casual fans who are just waiting for that particular fight, it's a bad look for boxing when Mayweather does that. So that's why I give him the award. But, you also had other disappointments like Alan Green and Andre Dirrell leaving the tournament of the Super 6 on Showtime. There was other disappointments, but I gave Mayweather this award for the simple fact that he let down casual and hardcore fans. So that's my thoughts, man. You guys let me know what you guys think I'm about to go take some Sudafed, some Robitussin, whatever it is, so I can feel better. Try to get me some sleep, and I will get at you guys next year. Look out for me next year. I'm gonna be doing some videos in January to talk about Alexander versus Bradley and some other fights that we have going. So hopefully we have a better next year in boxing. This was a great year in boxing. Hopefully we can improve, keep getting better and better.